morning, everybody. How are we doing? Welcome to the show. It's another day of the morning, night, live. A play on words by my name, Dawg Knight. But today on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about Faucism, a term coined by somebody in my chat, and I just ran with it, and I'm enjoying that word. It's a great word. It's very appropriate for what's happening in our country today. Oh, I should probably click some of these things that say I'm going on. And then also, boy, there's a whole lot of stuff. It's Woke Wednesday, so we got to talk about things Fauci. We got to talk about a little bit the COVID response, but we're also going to talk about just those kinds of things that we talk about on Woke Wednesday. Like, for example, voter ID, because the woke people seem to think that us poor black folks can't get an ID. And what else we're going to talk about? Oh, the hit piece on Governor DeSantis. Well, it seems to be biting, what's the California governor's name? Gavin Newsom. It seems to be biting him in the buttocks. And then also we got... we got all kinds of stuff. Lots of news, lots of new. Quality of life in New York City seems to be going to hell. And I also want to talk about these boycotts. Me not being a fan of boycotts, we talk about cancel culture, but then all those people want to boycott Major League Baseball and Coca-Cola. So I want to talk about that because there's a distinction when we talk about cancel culture. I think there's a little distinction that we need to make here, because a lot of people are saying, oh, the right wanting to boycott those things is hypocrisy. Yeah, maybe I'll go on a rant about that too. But before that, how about we talk about that in about 1 minute, because I got to play the intro. Play the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, Dawg Knight. It's time to stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as Dawg Knight on the internet, and welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel. It is Wednesday, Hump Day, the 7th of April, 2021, and I hope you're having a wonderful morning. I'm assuming you all can hear me just fine. I think it's all working here. I got all my stuff going. Okay, good. So anyway, we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but of course the title, More Faucism. By the way, if you want a Resist Faucism t-shirt, go to my Streamlabs site at pdognight.live. This thing there we go. This thing down here says pdognight.live, and click the merch tab. I got the new Resist Faucism line featured on the merch page. In fact, it's the only thing I have in my merch shop in that particular place. And I also have a Teespring store, but I don't seem to be, I haven't changed anything there. You can still get some of the 2020 FFS merchandise there. Oh, and our first sponsor of the day. Why can't I hear this? There we go. Turn that monitor up. The first sponsor of the show today is This Is Kyle. Thank you, Kyle, for sponsoring the show like you do on a regular basis. I greatly appreciate it. And Kyle says, hello, chat people and Dawg. Well, hello to you too, Kyle. I appreciate you sponsoring the show. Now, while I'm saying good morning to people, why don't I start saying good morning to everybody else who's here? So let's start with who was in the chat first today? Well, that would be Becca Fairley. Thank you, Becca Fairley. You get the bell. Oh, there, it finally worked. And thank you for being here. I also want to thank Becca, who every morning, almost without fail, Becca tweets out the show. She's like Johnny on the spot, but more like Becca on the spot. And I appreciate all of you who share the show. That's fantastic. Holy smokes, a whole lot of people here already. I guess the Crowder overlap isn't killing me too badly. I know a lot of you like to watch Crowder too. Anyway, and then also in the chat today is Mr. Thomas Cleaver. I want to See, I can't do the joke anymore because I don't want to upset Thomas. Thomas being from New Zealand, we did I can't do sheep joke, but sheep are cool, so I don't care. But thank you for being here, Thomas. I appreciate it. Also, good morning to Richo. Both you guys are in a time zone where you're up really early in the morning or you're up really late at night. I can't really decide which to watch a show, but I greatly appreciate you all being here. Also, let's see. Good morning, Keenan. Thank you for being here. Advocatus Diablis in the house. What's happening? Also, good morning, Select Boy.
Yeah, boy.
Also, hello, Uncle Bad Touch. Oh,
come on,
man.
man.
Well, we know who you are. Meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy. Daughter Judy. Jane, his wife. Okay, good. Yes, I know the Jetsons song. Good morning, sir. But we know who you are. Uncle Bad Touch, that's a hint. And good morning, Mike Savage, Blarg. Hello, Cultist 4. Hello, Woodcutter. Crowder's at 7-2. I know. He's stepping on my show, man. I thought this time slot was, well, I'm sure there's somebody else who streams this time slot, but I don't know who they are. Anyway, good morning, Jaeger Pony, my favorite Canadian. Fantastic. Good morning, Renee Mayette. Hello, did I already say Kessler? No, I said Keaton. Hello, Kessler also. Good morning. Also, Zablay's in the house. James PFP. Justin Anderson. Good morning. Also, good morning to Ronan Wolf. Oh, no, look what I did there. I meant to do what I do. There we go. Ronan Wolf. Gets a trucker beep. Hello. Good morning, TC. How you doing? Also, good morning, Maddie, who that trucker beeps also for Maddie, since they're probably in the same truck right now. Or maybe. Woke up this morning with the sun down. Shining in. I found mine in a brown paper bag with it. I tripped on a cloud and it fell 8 miles high. I tore my mind in a jagged sky. I'm not even positive. I'm 100% sure that I know what that song is. Thank you, Gunfox 60. Oh, by the way, I missed to say this for Kyle. Kyle,
you are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
Well, let's be honest. That was short-lived because Gunfox 61 now.
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
Thank you for sponsoring the show. Gunfox says, on the road again. Ugh, another 50-plus hour week. Marty, don't quit your day job. Well, I haven't quit my day job yet. Also, thanks to Reese the Kid sponsoring the show through Super Chat. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. If you want to sponsor the show, Super Chats, Streamlabs is in the description and it'll pop up in the chat every once in a while, or Cash App and Venmo. But I just enjoy the show. You don't have to donate, but I do appreciate when you do. And if you do one of the Streamlabs or the Super Chat thing, obviously I'll read what you write. I do reserve the right to be an editor. See, I am not acting as a platform, but I am acting as a publisher. And so every once in a while I do, occasionally, very rarely, it's very rare. I have to, what do you call it? I have to not edit. What's the word? Edit? No. Censor. I have to censor my show, and I even censor myself sometimes, at least the first 10 minutes of the show. All right, let's keep going here. Did you see where MLB All-Star Game was moved to? Yes, it was moved to Denver. We'll talk about that a little later. Good morning, Data Wasteland. How you doing? Also, good morning, Francis Barrett. Nice to see you back. Hello, Austin. Hello, Don Keedick is in the house. Gulf City Biker and Trash Man. Also, Jonas Pedersen. What's up? Good morning. Let's see. I'll keep going and scrolling down here. I think Chris Jones, welcome back. Nice to see you. Scribe Light, Dog Thrapple. Yes, I'm so glad to see Scribe in the chat every once in a while. It's bright and early for Scribe because he's in one of those time zones that make you go, what the hell are you doing up this early? And especially listening to me. But hey, I appreciate it, of course. Am I missing anybody? Justin Anderson, this is Kyle. I already said hi to Kyle. Hello, Moonbase Radio, Katie Did Skate, Teresa the Kid, thank you for sponsoring the show. Atheist Icon, Paul Farrell, what's happening? Maddie, I got Maddie already. Jesse Leon, think I'm all caught up on the people in the chat. If I missed you, I apologize. I will figure it out eventually. All right, let's get on with it. So, Oh, I should probably hit send on all these things too, just to let people know that I am actually streaming. So let me just do the housework here real quick. All right, that made it on there, and there's that, and then there's that. And I will put it out on Twitter also. And as soon as I hit this, hit the copy and paste. Come on. Work. There we go. There's the paste. There's the... I'm probably going to get in trouble for that resist fascism hashtag, but I don't care. Oh, excuse me, not fascism, Faucism. You gotta resist Faucism. Ken Lee, what's happening? Oh my God, she scrolls back up. She who? I'm not. Hello, Sean. How you doing? Ken Lee, wait. I waited a whole 30 seconds for the show to start. 7 a.m. Yeah, it's bright and early where you are too. Okay, here we go. He. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. My pronouns are I, me, and my, because it's all about me. But anyway, you can use whatever pronouns you want for me as long as the person you're using them with understands what the hell you're saying, because I'm not the one to tell you who you're talking to. Maybe someone you're talking to is in reverse land, or what do they call that in the comic books? The alternate universe. Maybe you're in an alternate universe where my pronoun, and you're talking to somebody in an alternate universe who uses pronouns backwards. And if it's in backwards and they understand what you're saying, I don't care. People who demand that they use their pronouns. You don't own your pronouns. Nobody's talking to you using the pronouns that you demand they use. You're usually talking to a third-party person. And guess what? If you're about to hit a bus and I say, go save him, and you say, my pronouns are she and her, and the bus hits you, well, that's the bigger problem. If the bus hits you, then rather not if I use the wrong pronouns. So anyway, hello to Rydeos also. I'm catching up on everybody. All right, we're good. Let's start talking about things that we came here to talk about. And one of those things that we came here to talk about is the good... Oh, why did I have this? Oh, let me do a quick update on the Derek Chauvin trial first. Then we'll get into Dr. Fauci. Legal Insurrection has a little update on the trial here that... Oh, what the hell happened there? Let's see if we can fix this. There we go. I don't know why that... Oh, that's right. I had to reset something. All right. So here is the update. Live Chauvin trial day 7. Where is the cause of death? This is a good question. This is a good question, and something that the prosecution seems to be avoiding at all costs. Where is cause of death beyond the reasonable doubt? So this doctor came on that saw George Floyd when he came into the emergency room, right? They brought him to the emergency room. He had a very almost unrecognizable heartbeat at the time. And he was talking about how he was very careful just to say that George Floyd died of asphyxia. Okay. And now, but he wouldn't say that it was necessarily drugs. He also didn't say it was due to a knee on his neck. And there was another person who testified earlier in the week, some guy who was watching when it was happening, and he was saying, "Oh, he's an MMA fighter, right?" And he said this was a blood choke. Well, no. The blood choke MMA fighter, he's talking about when you put pressure on. I can't remember what the name of the artery is, but there's an artery that if you press this artery and cut off that blood supply, you'll pass out very quickly, right? And so if this had, and I think that's what he was trying to describe in an MMA, you put him to sleep, right? In an MMA hold. Well, first of all, that MMA hold, you have to be putting pressure on that artery, and it'll stop the blood flow to your brain. And in less than a minute, you'll be out. And if that were the case, if he was putting a so-called blood choke on George Floyd, well, George Floyd would have never been able to keep talking for, the good. Again, they talk about this, I'm not going to say the exact time, 9-minute video, right? And George Floyd is still talking about it, how he can't breathe, which when you can talk, you can breathe. But it would have been a 2-minute video had that been the case, right? Carotid artery. Thank you. So that clearly it was not a blood choke. Okay. This fighter is just, well, talking out of his hindsight. But anyway, this article arguing Floyd died of asphyxiation just means that fentanyl killed him. He's saying that's what the argument here. Welcome to our ongoing this is from who is this? Andrew Braca. Now this is okay, they just doing a transcript of the podcast. Today marks a week and a half since the state has begun presenting their case in chief, and they have yet to nail down a key issue in this case. What exactly caused Floyd's death? We know they don't believe that Chauvin intentionally killed Floyd because Chauvin is not charged with an intentional killing. All the various charges against him, including the odd use of the term murder preferred by Minnesota, are unintentional killing crimes at worst. Felony murder, reckless homicide. Felony murder in Minnesota just means that someone died in the act of a felony. Okay, not that someone was intending to murder somebody. So, for example, if during a bank robbery, somebody falls to the ground and dies of a heart attack and doesn't get relief, you can be charged with felony murder because that person died while you're in the process of committing a felony. It also can happen and in this case, they're trying to claim that Derek Chauvin was committing a felony assault on George Floyd when he died. Okay, so, but it's not considered an intentional act. It's an attack. It's at least the murder's not. So that's how they're using the terminology. Now, they sometimes suggest in passing Floyd was killed by asphyxia or lack of oxygen to his tissues, perhaps induced by Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck or pressure placed on Floyd's body, or by positional asphyxia or purported failure to place Floyd in the so-called recovery position. The problem with this approach is twofold. First, it is impossible to determine with any degree of certainty, much less beyond a reasonable doubt, that any of the physical actions of the officers, including Chauvin's knee in the absence of any sign of leg trauma, actually caused any degree of asphyxia. One can speculate that cause and effect, but speculation does not get one to proof beyond a reasonable doubt, at least not in the context of an evidence-based alternative explanation for asphyxia. And that's the second problem with this approach. That alternative explanation is, of course, Floyd's threefold fatal levels of fentanyl. Fentanyl overdose kills by inducing asphyxia because the drug's effect on suppressing respiratory function as well as inducing foaming in the lungs, thus the 2.5 times their normal weight in the autopsy. And the only person responsible for Floyd's ingestion of overdose levels of fentanyl is George Floyd. To say then that Floyd died of asphyxia, as the state did yesterday through the testimony of the emergency room physician Langenfeld, does nothing at all to direct fault to Chauvin or the other officers involved and away from Floyd, because it is at least as likely, arguably far more likely, that this asphyxiation was the result of Floyd's own conduct, not the conduct of the officers involved. That doesn't get us to proof of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Now let's remember, beyond a reasonable doubt is the requirement for a guilty verdict. By the way, good morning, lunatic. How you doing? Nice to see you. So Indeed, unlike Floyd, the officers could have no clear idea of exactly what Floyd had shoved into his mouth and ingested, what drugs he might have taken and still have in his system shortly before contact by police, how frequently and recently Floyd had been using or had been clean, or what Floyd's tolerance to any given dose of drug might be, what comorbidities such as severe hypertension, cardiac disease, and cardiac artery occlusion Floyd might be suffering from, and other factors that played as decisive a role or a greater role in Floyd's demise than anything any of the officers did in the course of making Floyd's lawful arrest. At some point, the prosecution is going to have to present evidence that of the precise mechanism by which they believe Chauvin killed Floyd, that this purported mechanism of death was not otherwise lawful conduct by Chauvin, and that this purported mechanism of death is proven beyond a reasonable doubt, despite the presence of perfectly obvious and evidence-supported alternative explanations for Floyd's death that place no fault on the officers. Will that day be today? Will that day ever come? Join us and find out. And so they have video of the live proceedings, and let's see, just a couple more things about reaching his blog. Again, his name is Andrew Braca. And in fact, I will, let's see, maybe I'll link. Let's see, can I link in his blog, his podcast or his blog? Let's see. Using new blogging software, have you encountered any problems? Okay, I don't know where he's doing that. Anyway, so there you go. Advocatus Diaboli says there is also the angry crowd, which the prosecution has done so good a job proving was real that could have reasonably caused the cops to be distracted. Yeah, you think? In fact, because the crowd that was coming around yelling at them obviously distracted them, and they were probably worried for their safety. Here's the thing. Now, I've said this over and over and over. The murder charges, the felony assault charges, I personally think those are bogus. Did Derek Chauvin have a responsibility to be aware of what's happening in the situation? And is there a reasonable reason to convict him of some sort of involuntary manslaughter? Absolutely. Because his job as a police officer and as a first responder is to bring George Floyd in alive. And as George Floyd was fading while he was under the influence of fentanyl or whatever, and as they were holding him down, he needed to have the situational awareness to at least attempt to revive and or help George Floyd recover from whatever was happening. He did not do that. Now, granted, they were waiting for paramedics to arrive. The paramedics didn't arrive in a reasonable amount of time because they took a wrong turn or something. There's more documentation of that, and there's a crowd distracting them. But I think there is a reasonable reason to convict Chauvin of something, but not any form of murder. And that's why I said at the very beginning, they're overcharging Derek Chauvin. When they first came out with several different charges, now they've gotten rid of a couple of them, they completely overcharged Derek Chauvin. Good morning, Charlie A. Hey, P-Dog is a proud Democrat. I can admit it's going to be hard to convict Chauvin, but I do hope they convict Matt Gaetz down in Florida. What a disgrace he is. He's my congressman. You got to tell me what we're convicting him of. We'll get into that conversation probably tomorrow. Convict him of what? They haven't charged him with anything yet. And right now, we don't seem to have. Now, okay, I don't want to get into that case, but there doesn't seem to be a victim coming forward in that case. But maybe there is. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. And if Matt Gaetz did whatever they say he did, hey, FTG, fuck that guy. I don't care. But we'll see. As far as Derek Chauvin, though, the reasonable doubt. I don't know. I have no idea how a jury cannot have reasonable doubt in this case, particularly the original autopsy, which there's no reason for this original autopsy to say anything untruthful. And the original autopsy said there was a toxicology report showing that he had far more than enough fentanyl in his system to kill a man, and in combination with the amounts of methamphetamine in his system, that would be a combination of factors that would cause him. The fact that his lungs were 2.5 times their normal weight, which means they were filled with fluids, maybe that foaming issue, and combination with his own prior issues, hypertension. It's not the first time he's had gone to the hospital for an overdose. And, there's a whole lot of factors that cause reasonable doubt. You know what I'm saying? There has to be, there's obvious reasonable doubt that he probably died from an overdose. That's why I say, but did Derek Chauvin and the officers have a responsibility to at least attempt to revive him? And in fact, had they done that and realized that he was fainting and tried to attempt to revive him at the time, whether they were successful or not, we probably wouldn't be having this trial. Although we'd still be having riots, because they would certainly want his head either way, because, of course, they have this assumption that white officer, black, I don't even call him victim, black man dead, white officer is automatically suspect in this day and age, which is pretty stupid, actually. But that's where we're at. Hello, Bastard Beast. Good morning. Good morning, K Shull. And funny how Dems are so quick to burn Gates when they barely have any facts. Yet when Biden was being accused with a victim who was speaking out, plus his creepy hair fetish, they swept under the rug. Well, that's just that's the name of the game right now, right? No one on the right or Republican is going to get a fair shake in the media. We just get used to it, at least in the mainstream media. Obviously, there are other forms that are going to, but hey, Hunter Biden is now on a recovery tour, selling a book, and if you watch the taint cleaning that the CBS interview did with him the other day, holy shit. Imagine if someone named Trump, remember oh my God, the crap they gave when what's-his-face started dating Kimberly Guilfoyle or whatever the hell her name is? Could you imagine if Eric Trump passed away and Don Jr. started cheating on his current wife with Eric's widow, and then leaves his wife for Eric's widow because he's stripping her. And then while he's dating Eric's widow, he cheats on Eric's his brother's dead wife, or dead brother's wife, started cheating on her with a stripper and has a baby with a stripper in some state away. And then they had to do a paternity test and child support trials, right? And then you find out too that Don Jr. was hooked on crack and drank a quart of vodka a day. And then also there was all these shady deals in foreign lands. Could you imagine how right now, would that be a recovery tour? Would they be out giving him tongue baths? Or would they be ripping him a new one in every interview? There wouldn't be a recovery interview. There wouldn't be a book out that, and imagine this. Now he's going to make millions more off the Biden name selling his book, because everyone with the blue waves in their Twitter handles probably going to go out and buy his book and say, oh, the poor guy he was an addict, and addicts do strange things. No, they would be, if his name was Trump, they'd be ripping him to shreds every damn day. Just how it works, right? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Dr. Fauci. Good old Dr. Fauci. So, he's, this is how Ace puts it. He's once again predicting death to red states for permitting normal activities. Texas dropped the mask requirement a month ago. Fauci predicted a spike in COVID infections in 2 weeks. Well, that didn't happen, right? So now he's saying, like any prognosticator of doom, aka Faucism, telling his cult followers that the end is nigh, that judgment day is still coming. We just have to give it some more time. It's late, but it's on the way. And he says that the situation is complicated. Strange, the situation was very simple and easily forecasted when he issued his earlier false prophecy. Now, it's complicated. Meanwhile, the left give no shit at all about, the BLM arson parades and the daily scum that Antifa gets into with Antifa gets into. With the cops and citizens trying to drive to the supermarket. In fact, this is here's a good example. Remember this? Remember how apparently this was not a super spreader event? This was just fine. The media just thought this was just fine. Never once called it a super spread event. You know what's funny about this? Also, I'm just going to run it back here. So this was a BLM protest in July, right? All fine and good. Oh, because everyone was wearing masks. No, they weren't. So this was just fine back in August or July. And it's funny because they keep telling us that COVID has affected Black and people of color communities more, right? Well, I wonder if it's because of that super spreader event. You think? So anyway, here's Dr. Fauci on the Morning Joe, the Morning Joke, on Texas COVID cases dropping despite ignoring his advice about masks and social distancing and all that stuff. Here's what he said here. Let's see. Let's move it. Oh, sorry. I should probably put it on the screen here. Here's what he said.
You mentioned Texas and that full ballpark in Arlington yesterday. There was a lot of concern last month when Texas effectively opened up, dropped all those restrictions and said it's back to life. And if you go to Texas, as you know,
yeah, Governor Abbott said, in the immortal words of Elvis Presley, Governor Abbott said, fuck it. Anyway.
Looks like 2019. The restaurants and the bars are full and open. The ballparks are full. And yet we've seen cases and hospitalizations since then continue to tick downward. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, because they're talking about now. Notice how notice what the Chiron says. States roll back restrictions even as new cases rise. Huh. That's fascinating because that is not what happened in Texas. Their cases are down. By the way, quick good morning to Willett Forge. Brutus is in the house. I think I also saw, who did I just see here that I didn't say hi to yet? Oh, People's Front of Canada. What's happening? Yeah, go figure. All those cases. This was over a month. Well, let's see, not over a month ago. It'll be a month in 2 days when he said, this is going to be a disaster. In 2 weeks, you're going to see the rise in cases, and their cases keep going down. So how does Dr. Fauci answer this? With some more Faucism.
As all of us look around and sort of try to consider how safe it is to get back to normal life.
Yeah, it can be confusing because you may see a lag and a delay because often you have to wait a few weeks before you see the effect of what you're doing right now. There are a lot of things that go into that. I mean, when you say that they've had a lot of activity on the outside, like ball games, I'm not really quite sure. It could be they're doing things outdoors.
Now, what did he just say? It could be that they're doing things outdoors. Huh. sunlight. Finish my sentence. Sunlight. I'll just see if it shows up in the chat. There's a little bit of a lag here. Finish my sentence. Sunlight.
Very difficult to just one-on-one compare that. You just have to see in the long range. I hope they continue to tick down.
You know what's fascinating too? He was so sure that in 2 weeks you're going to start seeing the cases rise again in Texas. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a possibility, but I just, sunlight kills vampires. Okay. That's kind of, well, no, not exactly where I was going, but yeah, it kills things. Kills germs. Okay, that too is, Willett Forge got it. Ding. Is the best disinfectant. But don't talk about disinfectants because someone will accuse you of wanting to inject bleach. That thing that one guy with the funny hair never said. Anyway, let's finish up what Fauci says here.
If they do, that would be great. But there's always the concern when you...
What? Sunlight makes onions hairy. What the hell are you talking about, Ken Lee? By the way, if you're here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And also, we'll do the simultaneous like in a second. All right, here we go.
Pull back on methods, particularly things like indoor dining, bars that are crowded. You can see a delay and then all of a sudden tick right back up. We've been fooled before by situations.
But we won't get fooled again. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a little Who flashback.
Where people begin to open up, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden, several weeks later, things start exploding on you. So we got to be careful.
Okay.
We don't prematurely judge that.
You've been pretty clear over the last.
All right, so that was that, and I got to say. We'll see. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It certainly could happen. But he was so adamant before, right? He was so adamant, and it just didn't work out the way he thought. And then, despite the failure of his forecast a month ago that Texas dropping its COVID restrictions would be disastrous, Fauci's now warning last night's Ranger game could spark another COVID wave. Now here he is. He says this to Joe himself.
Caught in this,
who,
Joe,
hang on. All right, hang on. Here he is talking to Beaker. No, is Beaker or she? No, Leaker. She's Leaker. He's Beaker. Beaker and Leaker. Thank you, HB, for coming up with that little funny. He's talking to Beaker about the Rangers game.
Well, the other wild card in this, Joe, is that even though everybody has COVID-19 fatigue and wants to get back to normality, you see the pictures of the Texas Rangers stadium essentially crowded. We don't want to declare victory prematurely.
Okay.
Because we have a virus out there now, this variant that spreads really quite efficiently. And if you pull back on masking and avoiding congregate setting, you're really taking a pretty big risk. If we can just hang in there a bit longer, because every day.
What is a bit longer, though? Look. I'm kind of hoping that a lot of these people are getting vaccinated, and also, what I haven't heard about the variants yet? On some of these variants, okay, so it's a new case, new variant. Have they ever once mentioned when you get one of these variants, do you get just as sick as the original? Are people being hospitalized? Are the variants more potent, less potent? Are the variants causing more deaths, fewer deaths? What are the variants doing? They keep saying, yeah, this variant is spreading. What's the variant doing? Okay. And but even then, they say that the vaccines work on the South African variant. They say the vaccines, yippee-ki-yay, MFer, they're working, right? So fine. So people are getting vaccinated and some people are taking their chance. I don't understand. I don't understand. What are the variants doing? Variant equals goalpost. Right. Yeah. And how long? How long? Because he said, what does he say here?
Hang in there a bit longer.
Hang in there a bit longer.
Day.
Define a bit longer. And is this another one of your hunches, Dr. Fauci? I don't know. I wish you'd be a little more clear and just, because so many things change. And again, we talked about this yesterday. I was talking to my doctor friend, and she was saying, yeah, things change in medicine all the time. But his changes always seem to his changes follow a pattern of more doom and gloom. Because in the beginning, he made so many mistakes that no one seems to be willing to acknowledge, particularly in the media, because they're so busy deifying this man. How many mistakes in the beginning? When Donald Trump was thinking it was hopefully it's just going to go away, we got this undercover, we have this, when we had 15 cases, we knew where they all were and whatnot, and he said, hopefully it'll just go away. Well, who is the advisor telling him what to do at the time? Oh, wait, it was this guy, that guy right there. It was him who was giving him that advice. Remember when Dr. Fauci was saying, well, this, we don't need to be changing lifestyle yet. March 6th, was it? Or no, March 29th. We don't need to be changing your lifestyle. You need to be doing this. Don't need to do that. Don't need to wear masks. People running around in masks, you're just probably going to cause more problems because you're always touching the mask. Oh, then he later said that he was lying about that. And yet he still deified that he was willing to lie to the American people about that then because, he was trying to make sure that we had enough masks for our what do they call us? Essential workers, the healthcare people. So he said he was willing to lie about that, and he was wrong when he said, "Oh, yeah, you don't need to change lifestyles." And then we go through this 15 days to slow the spread. Well, 15 days to slow the spread was over a year ago. I don't even know what and then some of the things he says it was because of a hunch. Wait a minute, because of a hunch? No, I want data. Don't you look at data? Because it's funny because the data from where we're getting the studies from other countries tell us the schools should have been open a long time ago. But you're working on a hunch? I don't understand that. I'm sure this guy's, he's the greatest medical mind in the history of the United States of America, I guess. And that's how people treat him. I remember it was funny because when Rand Paul was questioning him in a Senate hearing, and Rand Paul had some very, very poignant questions that Fauci needed to answer. And people were saying, well, this is like Snoopy questioning Albert Einstein. Well, really? So another doctor who knows about these things and has studied some of this himself can't question the physician who hasn't practiced in 30 years? Who's been the head of a agency? Come on, man.
And
it's the same guy who was leading the effort under the last guy that, they hate. And now I still haven't figured out. So how did he not get the same disfavor that Dr. Birx got? They were on the same team. They were saying the same shit. Dr. Birx in disfavor amongst the left. Dr. Fauci in favor of the left. Is it because Dr. Fauci once in a while kind of contradicted sort of what Trump said? So did Dr. Birx. And they've kind of canceled Dr. Birx. And this guy who said absolutely things that are completely different than he's saying now, things that were wrong. Now he's this guy. Don't understand it. Let him finish his sentence.
that we hang in there and not just give in to getting away from all restrictions. Every day we do better and better because 3 to 4 million people get vaccinated.
Okay, so a possibility of herd immunity, right? Oh, no. I think he's changed his mind at least. Oh, remember he said a few weeks ago, well, you get the vaccine after a couple of weeks, it should be fully efficacious, but you should still wear a mask and practice social distancing. Oh, then the CDC changed that you could at least be around other people who are vaccinated. If you're vaccinated and it protects you against the disease, what does it matter? Oh, and then all the Twitter people, well, it's because you could still get sick. According to who? I'm listening. There's a lot of doctors out there scratching their heads on what the hell is this guy talking about. I've been listening to a couple over the last couple of days. Typical sexism. Yeah, Katie, exactly. Sexism. Oh, now Dr. Birx is backtracking, saying, "Oh, Trump didn't do this, Trump didn't do that." It's funny. This is another thing they've changed their tune on. Remember when they both were telling the media that Trump was doing everything that they asked him to do? Oh, now all of a sudden, maybe they're just trying to get back in the media's favor by saying, well, he was very difficult to work with. Well, why? Because he asked you too many questions and too many things that didn't make sense. And he still went with your sorry asses on this, well, let's shut shit down. Well, then how well did the shutting down work? About as well as it did in all the other countries where they shut stuff down too, right? As in, not a whole lot. Compared to Sweden or compared to states here that didn't do as much of the shutting down, that seemed to have the same results per capita as everywhere else. Seems like this disease was going to spread in one way or another. Remember, it was to slow the spread, not to prevent the spread. 15 days to slow the spread so that hospitals would not be overwhelmed. Seems like maybe in the beginning they knew that it was somewhat inevitable that in a free society that this could possibly spread. And maybe they were seeing that in other societies it was spreading regardless of whether you shut down or not, or wore masks or not. Seems like there's probably a whole lot of people out there that had the disease that never knew they had it because they were asymptomatic. So how would they even know? And it's funny because they keep going back and forth on whether or not there was asymptomatic spread. In the beginning, we were not sure. We do this, that. Of course, it was a new disease, so I understand why they're not sure in the beginning. But if they would look at the studies from around the world, probably not a whole lot of asymptomatic spread. And in fact, now I think the latest, I'm not sure, don't accuse me of talking about medical disinformation because I'm not. But now they say that probably the spread happens for people who have symptoms in the first several days of having symptoms. Okay? Is that why my wife never got it? Because I realized right away that I had symptoms and, okay, I'm going to just go lock myself in a bedroom until I get my results. I didn't lock myself in. I came out to use the bathroom and my wife brought me food, but she never got it. Maybe she had it a long time ago for all I know. She's out doing COVID testing now. That's what, that's one of her side gigs. She does COVID testing. Never got it. But now she's been vaccinated, so she's less concerned than she was before. So went from overwhelming hospitals to no more cases real quick. Yeah, exactly, Katie. Exactly. Hello, this is Kyle. They treat Fauci like a saint even though he's a snake. I'm quoting you. Rat snake. Anyway, so you know what? My confidence in Dr. Fauci. Sorry, YouTube, and sorry, my friends on the left. My confidence in Dr. Fauci is pretty damn low. Just got to tell you. Good morning, Johnny Hellcat. And also, thank you for sponsoring the show, Johnny Hellcat. who says, "It's my last day of night shifts. Cheers to a new sleep schedule. By the way, they made Fauci a celebrity, which should never have happened." I'll give you a bell for that part too. Yeah, he seems to be enjoying his celebrity too. And you know what? Look, Dr. Fauci served this country under several presidents, and has been part of the National Institute of Health for 30 years, and which means he hasn't been seeing patients for 30 years, and lives by studies and lives by other people's work to make recommendations. And maybe, just maybe, he needs to get out in the field talking to doctors more. I don't know. Maybe he does and maybe he doesn't. But I'm hearing a lot of medical people. Well, you don't hear it, but you see them. Yeah, they're scratching their head going, what does that even mean? Okay, on that line of thought, since we were talking about Faucism, interesting, Republicans also seem to be warning of fascism, creeping fascism, if we don't resist the vaccine passport. That now let me make, oh, by the way, thanks again, Johnny Hellcat, for sponsoring the show. That's another thing that people are having interesting conversations about on the internet. A lot of people talking about, well, I had to have vaccinations to travel to certain countries. And so that's the same as having a vaccine passport. Remember Brooklyn Dad Defiant? Brooklyn Dad Defiant. Let me see if I can find that tweet by Brooklyn Dad Defiant. I thought I might have bookmarked it. Maybe I didn't, but let's see. Did I? Anyway, Brooklyn Dad Defiant had a tweet. You know who I'm talking about, that guy. He had a tweet where he's like saying, well, I don't understand what the big deal is about vaccine passports. I would be proud to have my vaccine passport and this and that to be able to travel. First of all, a vaccine passport to travel within your own country, arbitrary lines written on a map in a country that you live in? No, sorry. That's a show me your papers thing. But Brooklyn Dad Defiant, excited about vaccine passports. Maybe he should change his name to Brooklyn Dad Licks the Boot. You think? Come on, Brooklyn Dad Defiant. Anyway, a Republican warns of creeping fascism. No, it's spelled Faucism. If we don't resist the vaccine passport, Senator Rand Paul is the latest Republican to call for resistance to plans by the Biden administration to institute a vaccine passport, resisting the idea of a vaccine passport to determine an American citizen's freedom of movement has gained traction in the media because of how easily it could slip into becoming something akin to the Chinese government's social credit score. Now, Republican lawmakers are cottoning on. I've never heard that phrase in my life. Governor Ron DeSantis was the first out of the blocks to support legislation outlawing such a scheme in Florida. Quote, it's completely unacceptable and for either the government or the private sector to impose upon you the requirement you show proof of vaccine just to simply be able to participate in normal society. If you want to go to the movie theater, should you have to show that? No. If you want to go to a game? No. If you want to go to a theme park? No. I think it's something that people have certain freedoms and individual liberties to make decisions for themselves. Give that man a shiny new quarter. Yes, Ron DeSantis, exactly. Hello to the gayest person on YouTube. Vaccines make sense for the viruses you've got them for. They don't make sense for coronavirus that mutate easily and are not that deadly. That's kind of where I am. Brooklyn Dad compliant. Yeah, how about that? I'm going to tweet at him and I'll probably get blocked, but I don't care. He's a jagoff. Also, now, not my favorite person in the world, but when she's right, she's right. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene followed up with legislation called the We Will Not Comply Act, which, among other things, allows people to file lawsuits against businesses denying them services for failing to possess a vaccine record. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but anyway, she's also introduced a bill to fire Dr. Anthony Fauci by cutting his office pay until he could be replaced. Yeah, these are her bills probably are not good ideas, but I can see why someone would mind, would support those ideas, because you got to resist Faucism, right? The bill also instructs the Senate to change the mandatory vaccine laws enshrined in Jacobson versus Massachusetts, which allows states to use police power against the unvaccinated. Ugh. Yeah. On Tuesday, in The Hill, Senator Rand Paul called for all Americans to resist. Oh, let me stop. Thank you. This is Kyle, another sponsoring us through YouTube SuperChats, who says, yeah, vaccines to travel to different countries is one thing. Needing one to go to the grocery store is moronic, and they'll stretch it to that. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You know what? There's a whole big difference traveling to another country where you have a possibility of getting malaria or yellow fever, because they don't want you to come to their country and die. All right. Again, the idea that they're going to require you to show a vaccine passport to run to the supermarket or to a baseball game. I'm sorry, you all are F off. I don't have any problem not going to baseball games. I don't go to that many baseball games anyway. But again, outdoor events. Do you need a vaccine passport to? I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. Do you need a vaccine passport to burn the city down after Derek Chauvin is found not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? Or whatever. They can't get to that reasonable doubt. What is HIPAA? HIPAA. Well, here's the thing. HIPAA, which is the something health insurance act. It's HIPAA. That makes it so that insurance companies or whatever, cannot disclose your medical information to the third parties. In this case, you would be volunteering your medical information to third parties. That's the whole problem. That's how they say they're getting around that. But it just seems to be an odd idea that they're going to have these to be able to function in society. Again, it reeks of social credit score, that they use in China. Let's see. So Rand Paul called for Americans to resist the vaccine passports, characterizing them as the latest COVID power grab, aka Faucism. You have heard this is Rand Paul saying, you have heard my opinions on government bureaucrat Anthony Fauci, but it goes wider and deeper than any one person. And now we are in danger of their creeping Faucism, staying in our lives forever if we don't stand up and resist. The newest power grab comes in the form of an alleged vaccine passport, which would determine your social suitability to engage in your everyday life. Want to go to the store? Show your vaccine card. Want to go to a restaurant or a concert? Did you tell the government what vaccines you've had? Want to travel? Vaccine papers, please. You want to see your vaccine papers? Paul says the American public should never have to let go of their power for 1 second. Getting it back from power-hungry tyrants and media fearmongers may prove difficult. Quote, we can't let government tyrants and media fearmongers push us into accepting this terrible idea that we need their permission to go back to our lives. By early summer, everyone in America will have been eligible for a vaccine. Between those who took the vaccine or had COVID, there's little to no doubt that we will have herd immunity by then, and danger from COVID will be low. Even the CDC now admits that what I said months ago, and Dr. Fauci denied, those who have been vaccinated are not getting sick and they are not passing along the disease to others. That is from the CDC YouTube. I am not disseminating medical disinformation. That's straight out the CDC. There you go. Drop and dip. Nope. Drop, wipe, and dip. Anyway, Paul isn't anti-vaccination. He's anti-tyranny and pro-science. We've seen Democrats embrace their roles as lockdown dungeon masters and scaremongers, which they've used to change election laws to advantage their political party and keep school kids in Zoom jail. On Tuesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom tied his state's reopening to 16-year-olds having access to vaccines. 16-year-olds, as a rule, aren't being laid out by coronavirus. Not that he'd tell you that. Paul, Green, and DeSantis are just the beginning of a roiling movement against this Democratic Party power grab. As that keen political philosopher, the NBC host known as the Reverend Al Sharpton once eloquently advised, resist we much. How many of you remember that? when Al Sharpton said on this show, resist we much. All right. I've been using, I must have been on a rant or something. It's already top of the hour. Well, let's continue on here. Also on that note, Fauci didn't seem to be able to explain why Texas COVID cases are dropping despite all states lifting lifting all. The rain in Spain flows mainly on the plain. There you go. Lifting all restrictions. And you saw it, but I'll leave the article in the tabs today. Remember, all the articles that I feature today, this is the article in the Daily Caller. All the articles that I feature today will be included in the description down below. Immediately after the show, I update that link, and it's under a line that says, if you'd like to, today's news links for the show can be found here. I got to change that to after the show, though, because after the show, I will update that link, and you'll be able to, any of the articles I go through will be in the description, and you can read them on your own if you want to later, or if you're using them for your own stuff. Some of you make videos and write blogs and things like that, and you can find all these articles there. Let's go to, I didn't realize that, well, I did that while I was working, but anyway, what the hell's going on here? I did not change that. Here we go. And let me move this so you can see it. Hang on. Another article today from the American Thinker. Let's get it so you can see it. COVID-19 response is killing more than it saves. This is an editorial. I just wanted to include this because these the restrictions aren't all respect. RESPICT. Yes, you remember that. Jesse Leon. Oh my gosh. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the ground. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Interesting article. In medicine, we're constantly balancing risk and reward. Nearly all medicines and many therapeutic treatments involve risk to the patient we hope to help. It's time we use this same intellectual exercise to create a reasonable inquiry into the risk we took when responding to COVID-19 and balance it against the reward. If nothing else is accomplished, a better plan for future societal responses can be formulated, and if we recognize and remedy our failures in time, maybe we'll still have a recognizable United States of America. We have the benefit of hindsight, so we can look at the results objectively. The reward, although we've lost well over 500,000 Americans to COVID-19, it could have been far worse, even though the number is in question, as there was economically rewarding incentives to list COVID-19 as a cause of death when it could have little to do with a person's demise. It is still a frightening and increasing number. But our methods to mitigate COVID-19 come at a terrible societal cost. People will die from the fallout from the government response. Meanwhile, politicians and the media are transparently manipulating the science justifying bad and ineffective policies to erode the whole idea of the United States of America, ignoring the toll their decisions have wrought. They ignore real science studies replicated over years that easily prove that the COVID-19 response they chose to follow will kill far more people than it saves. On top of that, the consequences of the world's response have resulted in what will be millions of deaths worldwide, far outweighing mortality from the virus itself. Even knowing this, even when we are aware that the cure is worse than the disease, we remain compliant in the middle of a fear-stoked roar from complicit mainstream media and politicians doubling down on bad policy and poorly substantiated recommendations. Studies are accumulating estimates of potential deaths from the consequence of the lockdown, school closings, and business closures. A recent Bureau of Economic Research study suggests that the unemployment shock in America will lead to a 3% increase in mortality projected out over the next 15 years. This translates to roughly 890,000 additional, also known as excess, deaths. Scores of health issues that have been undiagnosed, untreated, and made worse by the isolation, depression, obesity, and substance abuse associated with the pandemic will pile up bodies into the next month to years. As an example, preventable deaths from missed breast and colorectal cancer diagnosis this past year are estimated at 10,000. Deaths of despair, suicide, and drug abuse are predicted by the mental health resources, SciComm, to be increasing by 75,000 this year. This year, not this next 10 years. That's 85,000 excess deaths from those two items alone. This is a 30% increase in suicide in the military. This includes a 30% increase in suicide in the military since COVID-19. BIS Bulletin describes a nexus between recessions and mortality, with an increase in mortality rates by a third versus non-recession periods. It is exaggerated in poor countries. Similarly, child mortality rise to 110 per thousand compared to 78 in regular times. It is an established fact that there is increased mortality of those living in poverty, and nothing ensures poverty more than inadequate education. Remote schooling is sure to prove ineffective. Again, this will disproportionately hurt the poor, and it will be the gift that keeps on giving for years to come. More like the anti-gift. There were economic good times prior to the virus. The truth is that this recession was a predictable consequence of our response. It was a choice made because the CDC, whose original purpose was to help us in our fight against viral pandemics, believed that this was the long-feared virus that would prompt DEFCON 4. It is well known that lockdowns lead to a sharp decline in economic activity. The CDC is aware of the potential increased mortality caused by recessions and lockdowns, yet it chose to push this response. Worldwide shutdowns inspired by our CDC and other countries' health organizations are estimated by economists at the International Monetary Fund to have caused a $9 trillion cumulative loss of global GDP. The probable deaths from starvation arising from the agricultural consequences of COVID-19 alone will number in the millions. Again, this will be affecting the poorest countries disproportionately. And you know how much they like to talk about disproportionate effect, right? They love to talk about this is going to disproportionately affect minorities and people of color. Well, here we go. Apparently, the optics of standing by and allowing the virus to succumb to herd immunity, something that would undoubtedly have been horrifically portrayed given the media of today, was too much when held up against the predictability of greater loss of lives caused by the response. Why else would the CDC choose this path? It did because those running it knew that the media would hide or obfuscate the cost of the response. They did it because the deeply entrenched bureaucrats within the department hated their president and worried about his reelection. The most shocking result of the COVID-19 response is the ease with which the United States citizens gave up their freedoms. Resist Faucism. Americans just said, sure, when the government arbitrarily took away our ability to run our businesses, attend church and school, and move freely. Even when the rules and regulations were shown to be more destructive than beneficial, they acquiesced. Even when the media bias was glaringly apparent, big tech was found to be using the pandemic to extend their power, and science was nakedly politicized. They bent over and took it. They said, okay, when the mainstream media, big tech, and college campuses used cancel culture to silence the critics. Yeah, they removed videos of doctors saying, what the hell is this shit? Most disturbingly, they suspended their need for truth. They chose not to interfere with the narrative being pushed by the government, media, tech, and academia, despite the ever more obvious lies. A lie told 1,000 times becomes truth, or so we were warned by Joseph Goebbels, the famed guy who followed the guy with the funny mustache. So we give up what it means to be an American to go along with the lies. We give up our desire to use our own free will and be responsible for our choices. And we give up our rights as Americans to obey give up our rights as American and obey the federal government that is following an unconstitutional agenda. Following our politicians into a future with no land of the free will be incalculably destructive to the world. Having no promise of American ideals for the world to aspire will have untold cost. We are suspending respect for the truth for a promise of safety, watching our country disappear. A world without the USA will be unsafe, unpredictable, and devoid of freedom. That article written by Keith R. Jackson will be in the links down below after the show. Anyway, all right, let's get on to some other stuff. Enough about that. Except for there's one more. Biden says U.S. in a life and death race as he brings forward date for all adults to be eligible for COVID vaccine. Oh my gosh. All adults will have the COVID vaccine available to them. Wow, who could have predicted that? I'll leave the article in the tabs, but I'm not going to go through it. But here's the headline. So, brings forward date for all adults to be eligible for COVID-19. April. Who was it that said that everyone will be able to get a vaccine by April? Anyone remember that? I think it was the president. That was the president in September. That president. And they scoffed at him. All right, I'm not going to read this one. You can check that out in the tabs. Also, now Politico. Now let's just get, this is going to be random articles and we're going to go quick fire since I'm running out of time. Politico stepped in it apparently because they named Andrew Yang the most prominent Asian American politician. Or one of the most. They said one of the most, but still. There's a little problem. There's a few people that they forgot when they said that, particularly our vice president, who is of Indian descent. They consider her Asian too now. Remember that? New York City mayoral contender Andrew Yang is a well-known Asian politician, but Politico caused outrage Tuesday when it forgot about Vice President Kamala Harris and declared Yang the most prominent Asian American political figure in the country. Andrew Yang is, this is a quote from the editors, Andrew Yang is the most prominent Asian American political figure in the country, the editors wrote in a now deleted tweet before linking to a glowing profile of Yang entitled Andrew Yang's Asian American Superpower. The story and tweet were updated to declare him one of the most prominent Asian American figures because they forgot about Tina. Oh, this is the Politico feature written by Tina Nguyen. Followed Yang to one of his favorite restaurants in Manhattan. Blah blah blah. They had an interview. What about Tammy Duckworth, Maisie Hirono? There's all kinds of people. In fact, there's people who were tweeting refried trash. The nation's Elie Mystal called the political piece. Tammy Duckworth and Maisie Hirono are in the actual U.S. Senate. And if we expand to South Asians, they might have noticed the vice president You know what? You can't be woke enough. Sorry, can't be woke enough. What the fresh hell is this? asked with many others noting that the above legislators would like to have a word. How is Yang, who has never held public office, a more prominent Asian political figure than Vice President Harris or Tammy Duckworth or Mazie Hirono or Ted Lieu or Judy Chu or Doris Matsui, who was born in an internment camp? Also, Nikki Haley was a UN ambassador and South Carolina governor, far better known than Yang. Hey, so they mentioned a Republican even. Narrator, let's see who they got. Yeah, they got Mazie Hirono, Duckworth, Harris, Chu, Liu, and Kay. And don't forget Nikki Haley. Of course, she's a Republican, so she doesn't count for anything because she is she's a traitor. All right, moving on. Oh, this was wild. There was this car chase in California, and not only how it ended was kind of crazy, which I'll show you here. Here's how the car chase ended. The police chase, you know what I'm talking about? So here's the end of the police chase. Watch this truck right here. Now you hear all the police cars, right? And the truck is pulling out in the intersection because, oh, wait a minute. What are they? Oh, they're chasing that guy in the pickup. Oh! So apparently, that's the end of the police chase. This trucker, the guy in the pickup truck running for the police, runs into the semi. And so that's that. Now I'm highlighting this. Wait, stop this shit. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so a witness just gave me this video of a crash at the end of the murder suspect pursuit in Pomona. I haven't been able to talk directly to the big rig driver yet, but I helped him and asked if he blocked the truck on purpose, and he shook his head no. This is Bill Megwin, who's from Fox LA. Well, then what's crazy is, and this guy says, breaking, wildest moment of my 4 years in LA. ABC's somebody and I just interviewed the female in the pursuit vehicle who the police let go. They let the passenger go. She says the driver is her friend from Bakersfield. She says she didn't know he's wanted for murder. And she was apparently like a celebrity in the crowd. So they ended up interviewing this gal. Let's see, this is ABC's feed, or where's the one? Here's her getting interviewed.
So dark, I guess. What did the cops try to do at first to get them? Yeah.
When did they first start chasing you guys?
From Temecula. But why? Do you know why? Why they decided?
No, okay, so I woke up like, and there's the person cop there, and he's like yelling, "It's federal." Yeah.
So anyway, they tracked them down, and there's video of her being interviewed in the Twitter thing, and then later here it is where he said, just talked to the big rig driver who ended the pursuit, says he did purposely end the pursuit by ramming the truck, says he knew it was a murder suspect and he tracked him, lined up his truck, and took him out. Brave man, his name is Ahmed Shaban. So anyway, and then, but it's funny because there's people in the Twitter going, oh, you're celebrating this guy named Ahmed Shaban, but it'll be just a couple days and everyone will hate him again. As if, oh my God, stupid people. But anyway, that was kind of wild. All right, moving on. Oh, and apparently some of the Democrats are still doing business with the Lincoln Project. I don't know why the grifting former Republicans. Anyway, this is from the Free Beacon. Many of the Democratic Party's most prominent organizations ditched the Lincoln Project after a series of scandals raised questions about the group's rapacious finances and the lengths to which the founding members went to protect a serial sex predator. But a number of key vendors in the Democratic Party are still working with the controversial Super PAC, which has vowed to continue its quest to accumulate generational wealth for its founders, even as former employees call it for it to be shut down. This is just a funny article if you ask me. But anyway, so Democrats are still helping the, excuse me, the grifters at Project Lincoln line their pockets. Good morning, Legit Low Talker. Hello, Zach Osborne. Good morning, Check Your Logic. A couple people I hadn't seen so far. And am I caught up? I kind of am. If I missed you, just say hi and I'll try to make sure I say hi back. Also, overwhelming percentage of Americans. Oh, by the way, it's Woke Wednesday, and apparently An overwhelming percent of Americans are not that woke because they support voter ID requirements. In the latest out-of-control left-spun narrative, Georgia's new voting law is racist and will disproportionately affect minority groups across the state. But while Team Left might, numbers don't lie. A new poll from the Associated Press reveals that a whopping 72% of Americans support such voter ID requirements in order to ensure fair and honest elections. And in fact, I did another poll, I think it was like 56% of Democrats, like 60% of African Americans, or 60%, let's see. Okay. Yeah, it was an overwhelming poll that said vast majority of Americans do prefer voter ID laws. Moving on. Let's see. Biden. Oh, what was Biden doing here? Oh, he admits that he has not confronted China on the pandemic and changes his tune to MLB rhetoric. Remember, listen to this. Listen to Joe Biden here. First of all, he has a brain fart in the middle of this, but you'll see it where his mind seems to shut down. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but he very interesting here how he goes through this. Here's Joe Biden speaking about. Biden, U.S. on track to hit 200 million shots in his first 100 days. So they're right on schedule since the beginning. Here we go. Oh, no sound. What the hell? Why isn't that? Let's try the other version. Hang on here. We'll get the other version. I got one right here. I am prepared for the Daily Caller sound does not work. Here's Joe Biden talking about whatever the hell he's trying to say. Wait, watch. See if you notice where he has the brain fart, though.
How's it going, Mr. President? In Vienna, how are the Vienna talks going?
I'll report on that later.
Actually, I'm going to let this play. I'll be right back.
Should be moved out of Georgia.
I think that's up to the masters. Look, it is reassuring to see that for-profit operations and businesses are speaking up about how these new Jim Crow laws are just antithetical to who we are. There's another side to it, too. The other side to it, too, is when they, in fact, move out of Georgia, the people who need the help the most, people who are making hourly wages, sometimes get hurt the most. I think it's a very tough decision for a corporation to make or a group to make. But I respect them when they make that judgment, and I support whatever judgment they make. But it's...
Yeah, that's... that doesn't sound... What does that sound like? That sounds like... there's a name for that. I'm just going to call it Faucism. But the part where he said...
I think that's up to the masters. Look...
this is the part that annoys me.
It is reassuring.
He had a brain fart there.
To see that for-profit operations and businesses...
This line here...
are speaking up about how these new Jim Crow laws...
New Jim Crow laws! We had a little chat about that yesterday, didn't we? Stop calling shit Jim Crow, Joe. Stop talking. Stop using the word Jim Crow. Especially as an older American whose parents actually went through redlining and who actually had to deal with discrimination, whose mother had to sit on the back of the bus when she was in college. This is not new Jim Crow law, Joe. Having an ID is not Jim Crow, unless you think having to have an ID to get a COVID test is Jim Crow. Having the ID to be able to... We used to have an ID to check out a movie even. Having an ID to just about anything functioning in this country is not Jim Crow. You have to have an ID to have a bank account. Is that Jim Crow? You have to have an ID to get welfare benefits. Is that Jim Crow? You have to have an ID to get a vaccine passport. Is that Jim Crow, Joe? Or Jim Eagle, Joe? Whatever you want to call it. Stop with the Jim Crow bullshit. It's not Jim Crow. Anyway, and he also hasn't talked to China about the pandemic. But he also changes to, originally he said he supports Major League Baseball. He says saying they should move the All-Star game, except now that it's affecting, they moved it from a mostly African-American city with African-American business taking millions and millions of dollars away from African-American businesses and sending them to lily white Denver, Colorado, which has some of their voting laws are tougher than in Georgia. Anyway, let's see. Oh, that's one I'm going to close there. Let's see what else do I have. We'll go through these really quick now. CBS failed. So remember the hit piece they did on Ron DeSantis? Well, apparently it ended up highlighting California's no-bid vaccine contract. The 60-minute segment on Republican Governor Ron DeSantis regarding vaccine distribution quickly unraveled, but inadvertently brought Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom into the spotlight. Hello, James Khalid and Jen T. The report published Sunday accused DeSantis of choosing Publix, Florida's largest grocery store chain, to partner with for the vaccine rollout due to donations the company made to his political committee. 60 Minutes quickly faced backlash, and critics began taking apart the segment, noting that the CBS show aired an edited clip of DeSantis' explanation of why Publix was chosen, with two Democrats publicly decrying the allegations and that Publix donation did not make up a substantial amount of funding, and much more. Critics began calling out 60 Minutes for airing a hit job, as former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany called it, on DeSantis, while ignoring the failures of Democratic governors in other states. One notable governor people pointed to was Gavin Newsom, who gave Blue Shield a $15 million no-bid contract to manage Californians' vaccination efforts. Blue Shield reportedly contributed almost $23 million to the Democratic governor's campaigns and special causes throughout the years, according to Fierce Healthcare. So $100,000 versus $23 million. Of that, nearly 90% has funded the homeless initiatives that critics and allies say are dearest to Newsom's heart. Fierce Healthcare wrote in March, Newsom, elected governor in 2018, in turn rewarded Blue Shield and its executives with positions of power during the coronavirus pandemic, which he has claimed nearly 56,000 California lives. So Eddie Newsom's $23 million versus DeSantis $100,000, and Publix wasn't even chosen by DeSantis; it was chosen by the Florida Department of Health and their emergency management departments. So anyway, let's see. This is just there's a couple tweets in here by AG. Public's effort has been a huge success in Florida, received bipartisan praise. The Blue Shield program in California has had enormous challenges and expensive frustrations. So if you want to read about that, he's got an article from the LA Times, how the cost to vaccinate California rises amid changes to Blue Shield oversight. Anyway, you can find that in that article. Moving on. And this is just how 60 Minutes claimed no evidence for Russian collusion and the Biden scandal. If you want to read about, let's just go to trip down memory lane. I'm going to skip it just because I'm running out of time here. In the New York Post today, quality of life plummets and taxes skyrocket, and New York City faces doom, according to Michael Goodwin. No man's life, liberty, or property are safe within the legislature while the legislature is in session. That's how Gideon Tucker, a New Yorker who knew Albany as a former legislator, Secretary of State, and judge, put it back in 1866. His wisdom, as demonstrated repeatedly over the ages, is timeless. Yet, There's something different and especially troubling about this time. The possibility of permanent decline and the ultimate destruction of the New Yorks we know is unmatched in modern memory. With Republicans reduced to hecklers, Albany Democrats oblivious or reckless or both are marching toward the cliff in an Alfred E. Newman, what me worry way. The rising course of stop goes unheeded. Washington is sending trainloads of money to blue states to bail out their high tax, high spend habits. As longtime government guru Dick Ravitch writes in the Wall Street Journal op-ed, quote, Congress has been generous allocating more than $12 billion to New York State, $6 billion to the city, $6 billion to the Metropolitan Transit Authority, and $9 billion to the state schools. So they can just go on their own spending ways, and the government seems to be bailing them out. The state's taxes take raises. The total budget about to be adopted around $212 billion, some $18 billion higher than the fiscal year that just ended. Florida, which has 2 million more people, will make do with spending $97 billion this year. Holy shit, that's a big difference. Of course, they don't have to remove snow in Florida, but I don't think that's worth let's see, what is that? $315 billion? I just don't think so. Anyway, you can read the rest of that article in the New York Post. It's fascinating. Also, the far left's plan to take over every federal court in over Republican objection. Progressives have long advocated packing the Supreme Court, but a recent plan proposed by far-left judicial activists calls on the Senate Democrats to add hundreds of new federal judges to the lower courts through a procedural tactic of reconciliation. Yale Law School professor Samuel Moyn and Take Back the Court director Aaron Belkin sent a memo on March 29th to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and other top Senate Democrats in favor of expanding federal appellate and district courts through reconciliation. So they're basically, they're going to pack the lower courts first before they pack the Supreme Court. It's an interesting article. You can read that, but yeah, they're dirty bastards. Also, let's see, blatantly lying or they do not understand critical race theories. Parent groups releases evidence of indoctrination in Virginia County schools. Is this in London County? Oh yeah, parent group seeking to recall multiple members of the London County School Board released new screenshots and video they say back their complaints. Critical race theory is being used in the curricula of London County public schools, despite denials from the school system. They're lying. Oh, speaking of which, I haven't done this one for a while. Why the fuck you lying? Yeah, that song. In a press release, London Parents for Education cited multiple reports surrounding controversy, including calls to silence opponents, the creation of target lists and secret Facebook. We talked about that a while back. Hello, Bishop. And calls to fire teachers who oppose the use of critical race theory, even in private conversations. Critical race theory holds that America is fundamentally racist, yet it teaches people to view every social interaction and person in terms of race. Its adherents pursue anti-racism, through the end of merit, objective truth, and the adoption of race-based policies. Yeah, so anyway, this parents group found evidence, and they're trying to get them to stop this shit. But there's a certain element in the new London schools that are embracing this, and you can read the rest of the article later. Let's see. It's long past time for conservatives to boycott corporations that hate them. Now, I have a couple boycott stories here. One from the Federalist, one from the American Spectator. And let's see. So earlier in this show, when I was talking about what we're going to talk about today, I mentioned the fact that there's an element out there talking about how we complain about cancel culture all the time. It's got about cancel culture. But we have no problem canceling Major League Baseball, canceling NFL, canceling Coca-Cola, having boycotts for this and boycotts for that. That's, to me, it almost seems like hypocrisy, except maybe not. Because when we talk about cancel culture, we talk about how they try to ruin individuals' lives. And they'll bring up Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick didn't lose his job because of his protest, although that certainly became a cause du jour when he was protesting. Colin Kaepernick lost his job in San Francisco because he was a shitty quarterback. He had success in one season and got him to the Super Bowl, right? But every defense in the league figured him out. And so he was, 1-3 over his next 13 games, or he had 3 wins in his next, couple seasons, and he got benched. And he originally started his protest as pouting because he got benched. Forgot to stand up for the national anthem one game because he was pouting because he got benched. Then he continued to protest because he got benched. But, someone told him, that's not a good look. You look like you're pouting little bitch. No, I'm doing this for a bigger cause. And then he became the celebrity. And he got $25 million from Nike that year because, one of those years after I wouldn't call that being canceled. How the hell do you make more money being a activist than being a football player? So but the cancel we're talking about is when they try and go get some teacher fired because they don't want to teach critical race theory. They don't think it's appropriate in their math class. And they get hounded out of their job and then aren't hired anymore. Or even when let's take someone more controversial. How about Laura Loomer, for example? When they take away all of her social media outlets at the same time, cancel her be able to use her credit cards anymore because she has dangerous ideas. That's what we're talking about cancel. Social credit type canceling, where if you don't have your vaccine passport, you can't function in today's society. They're trying to make cancel culture government policy with vaccine passports. And I fully support people getting vaccinated. Get vaccinated if you haven't had the disease or you haven't been vaccinated. And if you have an objection to being vaccinated, you're allowed to do that in the United States of America. You know what I'm saying? So there's a couple calls for conservatives to boycott Major League Baseball, to boycott Coca-Cola. On the left, had been trying to boycott Chick-fil-A for a long time. Now Chick-fil-A is obviously their business boom. But think about some of the sports leagues. The NFL hurting because people were not going to go back to watching NFL or going to games. The NBA is hurting for multiple reasons. Obviously, COVID is part of the factor of those leagues having trouble. But I don't know. I don't know if a boycott is work, but maybe they do. The funny thing is, so they sent the All-Star game to Denver, Colorado. Well, MLB's Denver Field is named after Joseph Coors, a founder of the Heritage Foundation and Mountain States Legal Foundation. Major League Baseball's Coors Field in Denver is named after the founder of the Heritage Foundation, Joseph Coors, the former president of Coors Brewing Company, who died in 2003 after setting up a legal foundation that challenged part of the Voting Rights Act. Oh, the irony! Joseph Coors, a passionate supporter of former President Ronald Reagan and former presidential candidate Barry Goldwater, donated $250,000 in seed money to the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank in Washington, D.C., which espouses, quote, building an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. According to Coors, the Heritage Foundation wouldn't exist, according to the Associated Press. Coors continued to support the foundation for many years with an annual contribution of $300,000. $100,000. Meanwhile, Reagan and Goldwater were greatly helped by Coors, who sponsored Reagan's political radio shows, which deployed his undoubted presidential skills to a national audience. Upon Reagan's successful political rise to the White House, Coors became an advisor in Reagan's so-called kitchen cabinet and was later nominated by Reagan to sit on the board of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Coors additionally established the Mountain States Legal Foundation, which was headed by James Watt, to combat legal environmental constraints. MSLF's litigation work also encompasses the Voting Rights Act. MSLF filed an amicus brief in the U.S. Supreme Court case Shelby County versus Holder, challenging Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which required that certain states had to get a pre-clearance from the U.S. Department of Justice or a federal court before changing voting laws. In 2013, the court in Shelby County struck down the decades-old formula to determining which states were subject to this onerous requirement because it was based on data from the 1970s. Congress has not taken up the court invitation to develop a modern formula, which the petitioners in Shelby County claim is because there is no longer clear data of geographically concentrated voter suppression in modern America. Well, they're going to try probably sometime soon, but anyway, so Joseph Coors, Mr. Voter Suppression himself. Welcome to Coors Field. Lily-White City, no black businesses, and what is his name? Joseph Coors? What is his name? Yes, Joseph Coors. Yes, there you go. All right. I'm going to have to get out of here, but hey, if you want to hear about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's new Netflix series, yippee-ki-yay. Maybe that's what because he said something about he was going to take a break. Take a break from what? What do you do, Prince Harry? Well, apparently they were working on a new Netflix series called, let's see, Heart of Invictus. The first Netflix series with Archwell Productions called Heart of Invictus. According to HuffPost, the new show will follow veterans who are competing in the Duke of Sussex Invictus Games as they train for Invictus Games, The Hague, which will take place in 2022. Harry founded the games, which are Paralympic-style multi-sport events for wounded service people. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's actually pretty cool. All right. I'm going to give Harry credit for that, but apparently they're going to have a Netflix series about that event. So, well, okay, I'm not going to smack Harry upside this big old ginger head because of that, because that actually sounds pretty cool. All right. That article's in the tabs. Last two, and how Augusta National mastered cancel culture. I might get into that one tomorrow. Also, comedian Kayvon quadrupled his fan base making fun of Joe Biden, and whatever. The comic keeps rising, keeps it clean while shaming peers for dedication or dereliction of comic duty. Yeah, have they not yet? Do they have a Joe Biden on Saturday Night Live yet? Does anyone bother even watching Saturday Night Live? I'm not sure, but I know they seem to not find anything funny about Joe Biden. Are you telling me Hunter Biden isn't funny? There are so many jokes about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, even Jill Biden with what did she say when she was trying to say Cisa Puede? Oh, my contact's messed up. Cisa Puede, and she didn't pronounce that right, and her coming out in her hooker boots the other day. I mean, I don't give a shit what the first lady wears, but she was kind of wearing hooker heels, and that, I mean, what the hell? If she looked like who's the girl who's saying "Shake Your Love"? Shake your love. I just can't Debbie Gibson, was that her? I can't remember, but she was dressed like a teeny bopper. She was dressed like Debbie Gibson back in the 80s. Like, what the hell are you wearing? Who needs a SNL parody when he is his own parody? That's true. So true. Okay, that's true. All right, and then the last article in the tabs is presumption of guilt. Physicians blame for racial health disparities. I'll read that one later. Anyway, gang, it's time for me to go, and I greatly appreciate you being here and being a part of the show through the chat or just hanging in there. Now, if you haven't done so, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button before you left, because that for some reason that means something. And YouTube world and the ratio of likes to dislikes is important, and you guys keep me going. Also, if you'd be so kind to share the show, hit the share arrow down there or pop it out on social media. By the way, you can find me on almost any social media as at Dawg Knight, except for Instagram, where I am, yes, that Marty. And then also pdogknight.live. You can find the merch in the merch tab, the new Resist Faucism shirts. And we're going to have another design. We're kind of working on that. Someone's making a design for the other Resist Faucism shirt. So hope you guys will be check that out. And a couple people have already bought stuff. That's very cool. Thank you very much. And if you I don't know, I hope you all have a great day. I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. Good morning, Gabriel Valine. I didn't see you there earlier, so hi to you. And that's it for today, gang. I gotta go. My name is Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here. See ya. Bye-bye. New intro tomorrow, or outro tomorrow, maybe, if I get it done. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Dawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the Dawg Knight Channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comments section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here.